macroeconomic goals to achieve full employment. Full employment does not mean that there is no unemployed or jobless people in the economy. Full employment refers to the level of employee rate where there is no existence of recycle or inventory unemployment. This is difficult to assume that full employment refers to 100% of the labor force being employed. Some people are employed as they could be moving on to new jobs and or choosing to resign, or they could be looking for another jobs. The potential benefits of full employment in economy is that the viable resources can be optimized efficiently. If more resources are employed, more output can be produced. Higher output produced can translate to an improved economic growth. Price stability. The phenomenon of inflation or increase in the general price level is challenge to every nation. A high degree of inflation rate that associated with a sustained increase in the general price level can be disastrous to an economy. Many quarters are affected by the negative consequences of inflation. The consumers' inflation directly influences their purchasing power. The quantity of goods and services purchased will be less if the inflation rate is high. Pensioners and fixed income earners too are affected by inflation, as it can deteriorate their real income with persistent price increase. This maintaining price stability is really important to policymakers. Third is to achieve an equitable distribution of income. The economic resources of a nation cannot rest softly and the degree of the economic growth. It is necessary to ensure that the economic growth of a nation is shared equally among its populations. Income inequality is a major concern for the policymakers to reconcile, particularly for multiracial countries such as Malaysia. Generally, the policymakers try to ensure that there is no wide gap between the rich and the poor. They will formulate a policy for income distributions to narrow the gap between the higher income and the lower income groups. This is to ensure that the populations enjoy an equality standard of living despite of income will create social frictions and give rise to many problems. Lastly is to achieve an equilibrium in the foreign sector. Foreign sector means economic transactions or activities that take place beyond the political boundaries. It includes transactions such as import and exports, investment in other countries, and inter-country tourism. A country will try to get an overall surplus or balance of payments that indicates greater inflow than outflow of the money. If a country faces off a BOP deficit, it means that the country will have to borrow from other countries, and this will lead to high debt problems. Whereas a prolonged BOP surplus will lead to inflation. This is important for a country to understand and determine the variable scale of their BOP. First users is standard of living indicator. Standard of living reflects the individual's welfare because it shows how much of the goods and services that can be consumed by each individual in the country. It can be measured by GNP per capita. The rationale is more goods and services that households benefit from, the higher the increase of consumption opportunities, which is in turn increases then stand in the standard of living. The standard of living can be compared from two different perspectives, which are A. to compare to the standard of living over time, and B. to compare to the standard of living across the country. Second is government planning and policies. National income statistic is a very useful tool to the government to formulate their economic planning. The available statistic of national income can guide the policymakers in planning for future. From the national income data, the government can view the historical trends and performance of the economic sector. In addition, with the national income data, the government can take necessary measures to improve the current level of economic or take the right corrective actions. For example, when the national income statistics shows that the economy is in recessions, the policymakers will suggest an expansionary fiscal policy to be implemented. The first problem is underground economy. Official GDP estimate may not take into account the underground economy, in which transactions contributing to production such as illegal trade and tax avoiding activities are not reported, causing the GDP to be underestimated. Those who do not disclose their incomes or underestimate their incomes to avoid paying higher tax may cause a loss in the government income revenues and sales, which are not reflected in the GDP. The second problem is to expertise and modern machinery. The lack of professionals such as statisticians, researchers, and programmers and major analysis is a major problem in the third world country. The services of these professionals are very important in estimating the national income data accurately with minimum. For reasons why countries are practicing protectionist policy, the first reason is to increase in the government revenue. The impositions of some protectionist tools will raise revenue from the government, such as tariff and tax. The second reason is to protect infant industries. Infant industries need to be protected during the first few years of their operations, since they are new industries in the country. Typically, they cannot compete with well-known industries which are operating on the economy of scale. The third is prevent dumping. Dumping is a situation where goods are sold abroad at lower price compared to the origin market. Overseas producers are given export subsidies or a monopolies practicing price discriminations. These situations may also exist when there's an excess supply in the production of goods and services. Lastly is diversify in economy. This agreement is to prevent the country from depending on one sector only. With the implementations of certain restrictions, the local producers will have to diversify their goods for the domestic market, creating a wide range of goods rather than focusing on producing certain goods only.